Is concept art dead? What can 2D artists do to remain relevant throughout production? In this essay, I will explore the role of 2D artists in video games as it relates to additional relevance within production, as well as factors that affect this within and outside of the control of the artist. The main areas of concern that I have identified are base skill set, adding value, changing trends, and added utility. Unfortunately, I was unable to land a video interview despite messaging multiple studios and individuals. Therefore, I will need to rely on a text interview that I was able to conduct with Pierre Armellet, senior 2D artist at Shiro Studios. He is an artist whose work I personally admire and who was able to land a job at Shiro Games straight after completing his advanced studies. There he has worked for the last 5 years. While it is regrettable that I was unable to land a video interview, my conversation with Pierre was extremely informative and has given me enough information to be able to answer my research question. Part 1. Base skill set. Jan Orschel, in the Ultimate Concept Art Career Guide, defines concept art as the process of taking ideas in the form of written words or thoughts and developing a series of visual interpretations that aid in the development of this idea. The work a concept artist undertakes is divided into research, ideation, sketches, refinement, and final concept. This is supported by VizLab's two-part What is Concept Art series. Concept artists are usually divided into character, environment, and hard surface artists. They are expected to experiment with few constraints in the early pre-production phase and will later work with departments related to their expertise, such as environmental concept artists working with level designers. Ideally, concept artists are able to work to a high degree in a variety of styles, but it is claimed that having an individual style can be of benefit also. They are also expected to be proficient in multiple industry standard software packages. In my interview with Pierre, he cites good technique as a requirement as well as an ability to adapt to styles, and most illuminatingly, the ability to be creative within constraints. I established these factors so that we can move along to define where concept artists can go beyond the expected skills and add value to the production as it moves beyond the pre-production stage. The book The Skilful Huntsman, which follows a project's production from inception to release and concerns itself in large part with the concepting of this project, we see these elements represented as well as the perspective of multiple of the working artists and their relationship with the iterative process of concept art, which cements the factors I have outlined. Additionally, in his GDC talk, Concept Art is Dead, Shadi Safadi mentions widely used skills he has compiled in a diagram called the 4 Zones of Awesomeness, in which he points out higher level skills that will lead to a concept artist's success. These zones are defined by him as cheatiness, which is the use of photo, 3D references, kid bashing, etc., to aid in posing, color matching, and then covering your tracks expertly. Sexiness, shape, color, juice, simplification and detail control, composition, essentially the simplification of shapes and styles in service of the composition to give everything a more graphic feel. Storytellingness, mostly composition and decision making of the artists, which presents story points within a picture and in general making visual decisions that help you deliver a point through your image. And then finally, classiness. Design, taste, composition, anything taking influences that are in good taste and have connection to the natural world and great artistry in order to ground your image. Part 2. Role in production and adding value. In larger studios, past this point, concept artists will either be moved onto the next project or work on other 2D elements such as UI, in-game illustrations such as loading screens, menu illustrations, etc., and even marketing art. So my question applies more to the smaller studio which is not running multiple projects at the same time, but also to the studios which may find themselves with more concept artists than necessary. How can an artist make themselves more indispensable to the company and simultaneously add value to the production? thus combining the ability to meaningfully contribute to the continued production while attaining a high level of job security. In my interview with Pierre, he added that as your skills grow, you can support production artists with feedback and guidance such as paint overs on sculpts, texturing work, and colors. He also added the insightful suggestion of playtesting the game. This adds value to the production while simultaneously having the added benefit of aiding in the artist's personal understanding of the game, improving your connection with the project and leading to more relevant and interesting ideas. Part 3. Changing Trends. In his 2015 GDC talk, Concept Art is Dead, Shadi Safadi of One Pixel Brush, a concept artist studio, and former Naughty Dog employee, speaks of the evolution of concept art, coining the term concept designers to highlight the changing trends in the requirement of concept artists. Shadi approaches the goal of getting to the top level of concept art, in particular the concept of following art gods, particular to each individual concept artist, through shortcuts necessitated by changes in the industry. He highlights the cannibalization of the self, the destruction of one's own art style to achieve the style desired by the top studios, using photo references and grounding the work. This highlights the approach that concept artists must take in order to remain successful in the AAA market. As trends change, so must our art, lest we risk being left behind or never achieving the level of fidelity we aim for in the first place. This is painful for an artist, and he mentions that a lot of the shifts he himself has seen in concept art have made him fall out of love with the production of his own art. He mentions using 3D models for composition as an example, but he acknowledges that a part of the artistry must be left behind. Use pre-made poses, use photo bashing, etc. Concept art is about the expression of the idea, and he highlights that is what concept art is. This was something that struck very true for me. I'm a classical artist, only having switched to digital around 4 years ago. It's difficult to sacrifice the artistry, but concept art is about the concept more than the art. We are working in service of the modelers and production. But how we achieve this goal is constantly shifting, especially with the current shift towards AI, which currently raises a lot of ethical issues. So, why is photo bashing ethical, but AI is not? And is this even relevant as a question for me as a concept artist? Photo bashing was very controversial during its introduction, but at this point has been inseparably integrated into concept art, especially for larger studios. It is, arguably somewhat begrudgingly, accepted as long as the result doesn't resemble the composition or message of the original image. The artist will usually only take elements such as plumes of smoke or other details of the image and repurpose them creatively. And I believe as it is a repurposing of real-life images, it is less egregious than repurposing another artist's work. AI works on an algorithm that is trained on the work of artists and then assembles recurring elements of the work to adhere to text prompts. This strikes a chord with people because it is reappropriation without credit. Perhaps the best way to ethically use AI is to use it in a fashion similar to photo bashing, or to simply use it for inspiration, as long as the ensuing image doesn't bear too much similarity to the generated image. Much like photo bashing and the subjects under the cheatiness group of Shadi Safadi's 4 zones of awesomeness, touched on earlier, I believe AI will find its way into the concept art sphere as a tool, not the finished product, at some point in the near future. The distinction of tool is integral to CG Spectrum's article, What is AI Art and How Will It Impact Artists?, as well as VizLab Studios' understanding of AI in the article, Oh no, is concept art dying? Yannick Lund, the writer of the piece, compares it to malpractice if a tool would solve the problem without input from the artists, relegating it to the realm of providing inspiration. They also highlight that the lack of creative input from an artist means that an art director or other higher-up cannot get feedback from the AI regarding the reasoning behind artistic choices, and as you cannot incorporate feedback from those sources, you have failed in your task as a concept artist. There is a lack of artistic intention and interpretation. Another issue users of AI will find is that of ownership. The article likens this to claiming ownership of an image because you used typed cues to find it on Google. They suggest that the standard of art will begin to rise through the use of AI, and artists have to reach an even higher echelon. They also suggest, as an artist, you should be aware of changing trends, weigh up the pros and cons, dip your feet in, and see if it can help your workflow. This was somewhat of a revelation for me personally. Through my research, I had defined how AI could be used ethically, to aid my workflow rather than replace it. I am much of the same mind as the article when it summarizes that concept art is in fact not dying, only transitioning. I suppose we must all transition with it, at least a little. I have found that this opinion seems shared by multiple artists via my research on Polycount. However, this still leaves the worrying trend that this increase in the efficiency of workflow leads to leadership at studios undervaluing talent and seeing most of their concept artists as deadwood, and will likely have to make very hard considerations when restructuring is necessary. From a business perspective, it sadly makes all too much sense. China has been hit particularly hard by this wave of new technology and has led to several job losses. Viola Zhu's article, AI is already taking video game illustrators' jobs in China, covers a myriad of ways in which illustrators and concept artists in China are affected by the AI boom, either outright replaced by AI art, forced or encouraged to integrate it into their workflow, or sometimes even simply creating a more competitive and exploitative work environment as everyone fears for their work. Additionally, when players were quizzed about AI art, some banded with artists or simply highlighted they would pay less for AI-created assets. It also mentions the inability of AI art to capture more niche aesthetics that have less representation online. Ironically, I would posit, if artists double down on these niches, it would lead to more representation and therefore feed more AI databanks. It seems like a lose-lose situation from most perspectives. Another potentially worrying development, although this is purely theoretical, would be the potential that studios will use art they own to train their own AI models in an effort to reduce the number of required artists in the future. So, in summary, using AI models for ideation, mood boards, and inspiration is acceptable and can actually speed up your workflow, but may still affect the industry at large and could lead to the devaluing of concept artists in the grander scheme. I am open to experimenting with AI in the early stages of my workflow as a necessity to stay competitive in the industry. AI also still has weaknesses such as recreating the same image from a different perspective, as well as intricacies of human communication such as body language, intonation, contextuality, etc., as noted by Shoshana Wall in her article.